Good night, everybody. I'm at my favorite spot in San Carlos. This place is owned by a French guy. The restaurant's name is Tortuga. I just love the Wi-Fi here, and not only the Wi-Fi, I love the food and the wine and everything. It's got pizza, good food, and everything. But this is not a food review video. I want to talk to you about my transit from Canada to Mexico. So basically, from Canada to Mexico, I didn't have any problem. Mexico asks you to just fill in a questionnaire, and you just fill in the questionnaire, and they don't ask for your vaccination status. They don't ask for a PCR test or a COVID test of any sort. They just welcome you in as long as you tell them that you have no COVID symptoms. They will check your temperature at Mexico City's airport, but they don't ask for a test, or they don't test for they don't ask for any sort of vaccination status of any sort. So it's very open out there. Now, it got me thinking about that because I have both vaccines. I've been vaccinated twice with Moderna in Canada, and I'm also taking a flight towards Maui on Friday. So that got me researching what I needed to get into Maui. And the first thing I realized is that the requirements from Mexico to Maui are very different. So in order to get to Maui, I have to first prove that I don't have COVID just to get in the airplane from Mexico to get to LAX. And that can be any test, like an antigen test or a PCR test, whatever. They don't care as long as you have some kind of a test showing that you're COVID negative. They don't care about your vaccination proof because they don't. Right now, what I understand is the U.S. government is not recognizing any sort of test that any sort of vaccination proof that comes from outside the US. So I have a vaccination proof, but it comes from Canada, and they don't want to care about it. But anyway, so I'll get an antigen test because that's the cheapest thing you can get. The PCR test is more expensive. I'll get that done in YMAS either tomorrow or the next day, and then I'll be able to fly to LAX. When I get to LAX, the issue there is, like I say, Maui, Hawaii doesn't recognize vaccination status or tests that are done outside of the US. So I'll have to do a PCR test in LAX, Terminal 6. Now, I'm taking off out of Terminal 2, but I'll have to be at 7 a.m. in the morning because I'm landing at 10 o'clock at night on the 8th. So on the 9th in the morning at 7 a.m., I'll have to be at Terminal 2 in LAX, get a PCR test done there, and I'm flying out of Terminal 2 at 8:15. So that's a squeeze. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it, so it's worrisome. I'm going to call Aero Mexico, who operates the flight for me, and see if they can change my flight with Delta to a later sort of eventuality so that I have more time to get the formalities completed in LAX. Sorry, I've had a few glasses. Uh, I booked that flight this morning, and I had no clue that the U.S. was not going to recognize my vaccination status. I thought they would, but they don't. So out of LAX, when I get the PCR test done, normally that should prevent me from doing any quarantining uh, in uh, in Maui when I get there. So I'm going over there to help a friend that has bought a boat, and I just want to have a look over his boat and make sure that he's got everything right. This guy has big hopes of cruising around the Pacific, and he bought a project boat, and I just want to make sure that he has what he needs to make sure that this boat is ready to cross the Pacific, kind of deal. So anyway, I'm going there for that reason. Of course, I'll be windsurfing and I'll be surfing over there, so I'll send you all kinds of updates about that. Uh, one thing I want to talk about is so basically, if you're a Canadian, you're going back to the U.S. They want a PCR test just to get into the U.S. If you're a Canadian going back to Canada, if you're fully vaccinated from a Canadian source, you're allowed to not have a PCR test or a quarantine requirement, uh, is what I understand from my research. Now, if you're an American going to Canada, I'm not sure what the rules are over that because they're very specific about your citizenship and status right now. I'm not sure why they don't trust vaccination proofs. I think it's a. I don't think it's out of bad faith from the authorities. I think it's just because, like, the U.S. authorities just don't have the database to confirm that my vaccination proof is valid out of Canada, and they do out of the U.S. So it's just a matter of time because before all of this gets sorted out, and that the U.S. actually recognizes Canada's vaccination proof. Anyway, that's what I think, but I'm not know. I don't really know. I just know that I can't get into Mauï with just any PCR test that I do in Mexico. I can't get into Mauï with just a normal antigen test that gets me into the U.S. Mauï is very specific. They want to have a PCR test done by a trusted partner in the U.S. And I can't do that in Mexico because they don't have any trusted partners here in Mexico, and I'll have to do that in LAX. So I'll keep you updated about all that. Uh, the fun of traveling with COVID.